Hey lovelings, welcome to my channel. I'm Allison Gray and this is Unminding. In my first two videos, I established some of my own backstory as someone who endured 18 years of cultic abuse and then continued to cult hop for a few years after that. Now I'm excited because we get to start talking about what I really started this YouTube to talk about, and that is how cultism manifests in the world at large. This is the part that's always been tricky. So when I tell my own personal story and make it all about me, that tends to draw more intrigue and sympathy from people, but when I turn that same cult critical lens off of myself and onto others, that sympathy turns to defensiveness real fast. And I get that. It's not comfortable to hear descriptions of cultic qualities and find yourself resonating with those descriptions, because we all like to believe that cultism is something that only stupid people fall into. But just because you may have some things in common with cultists, that doesn't mean you're stupid. It just means, hey, here's an aspect of yourself you may want to examine. When you're human, that happens from time to time. So even though this is going to be a video primarily aimed at recovering cultists about how to choose a belief system or not after spiritual abuse, I would encourage you, even as a non-cultist, to continue watching this video because you may be surprised what you learn. So without further ado, I invite you to join me on this contemplation of what healthy spirituality looks like, and why recovering from a cultic mentality doesn't necessitate becoming an atheist or even denouncing religion. So most people who follow my Unminding project assume that I'm an atheist, or at the very least would discourage spirituality. And then they're surprised to find that 7 years after surviving my last cult and making atheism a part of my recovery journey, I have returned to spirituality. And this common assumption that being critical of groupthink and fundamentalism and cultism means I must be an atheist is a really insightful phenomenon, because it shows that most people do associate, if not conflate, religion with cult. This is an understandable misconception, but one that needs to be cleared up before any genuine healing of cultism can take place. Not all cults are religious, and not all religions are cultic. Furthermore, cultism isn't determined by what you believe, but by how you believe it. So a worldview might be driven by cultism if it's based in one of the following: fear, believing something because you're afraid you won't fit in if you don't, because you're afraid you'll be punished if you don't, whether physically or metaphysically, fear of an authority figure in your life. These all fall under that category. Routine, so simply never having been exposed to differing perspectives, valuing tradition, or having not questioned your own beliefs in a while, all fall under this category of routine or habit. Ego, let's be real. Sometimes people believe things because they want to prove themselves, or they enjoy the feeling of being right, or dominating others in debate, or they have too much pride to admit when they're wrong, among other things. And 4, distortion, so cognitive distortion. So this just means not having developed the skill set that it is to think critically. So someone who struggles with black and white thinking, paranoia, obsession, logical fallacies, will tend to struggle with making spirituality a balanced aspect of a multifaceted life rather than the centrifuge of their whole identity and reality. This wasn't on purpose, but I just realized that that spells Fred. So in your cult recovery, just avoid Fred. Fred's not your friend. Sorry to anyone named Fred. So on the other end of that spectrum, a healthy relationship to spirituality is hallmarked by flexibility, meaning your identity isn't dependent on this worldview. So if you found out right now that you're wrong about your worldview, it wouldn't be the end of your reality as you know it. Agency. You chose this belief system for yourself, and you would face minimal, if any, consequences if you later changed your mind about it. Curiosity. This one's twofold. Curiosity in that you arrived at this worldview because you genuinely enjoy pondering it, reflecting on it, engaging with its ideas and assertions, and curiosity in that you continue to question your worldview and engage with different perspectives despite how much you like your worldview. Ethics, meaning you have a set of guiding principles that was firmly in place before you adopted your worldview. This is to ensure that you don't end up justifying any harm that you do or any harm other adherents to your worldview do in the name of your worldview. And having an ethic in place before you go exploring spirituality prevents you from believing anything that would later cause you to act unethically. And there are many other indicators that a spiritual practice can, in fact, be healthy. It's not possible for me to cover every single one, so please continue this conversation in the comments. What differentiates a healthy spirituality from an unhealthy one? Also, that spells face, and I don't have a clever quip about that. Maybe you guys could come up with one in the comments too. So now let's talk about how to recognize Fred in yourself. I can't. You may have an unhealthy relationship to your worldview if you recognize any of the following characteristics in yourself. Now, this is where unminding becomes very uncomfortable, but bear with me. When I say the following, I'm not judging you or telling you you're a bad person for being this way. These characteristics are things anybody can struggle with. It's not a cultic issue, but a human issue. So if you're preoccupied with your worldview, it dominates your thoughts, your conversations, your free time. It may even be the primary way you make decisions about minute details of your life, like what to eat, what to wear, that sort of thing. And even bigger aspects of your life, like who to talk to. When describing yourself, this worldview is one of the first things you list, meaning you identify very strongly with this ideology. You may even have a hard time imagining yourself without it. When questioned or challenged about your worldview, you find yourself feeling embarrassed, annoyed, agitated, maybe even afraid. You may go to great lengths to prove that you're right and whoever's challenging you is wrong. Most of the people around you believe the same things that you do, and you secretly resent the ones who don't. You may even be willing to cut contact with loved ones over disagreements on your worldview. You spend a lot of time promoting, persuading, debating, and even arguing or fighting with people about this worldview. You tend to be very easily riled up on the topic, quick to anger, and you may even carry around a general sense of being disheartened because you feel that your worldview holds the answers to many of the world's problems, and you wish that more people would see things the way that you do. When determining how you feel about others, particularly when choosing friends or partners, their opinion regarding your worldview is more important to you than how they treat you or others. And now if you're on the lookout for cultism specifically, this one's the biggest red flag. If you tend to get most of your perspectives from a particular person who you look up to, and furthermore, if this person encourages you to see yourself as dependent on them for guidance, this is definitely something to look into that has a lot of potential to become a cultic situation. Now, if you're a recovering cultist, and you're currently struggling with the aftermath of spiritual abuse or reality collapse, and you don't know what to believe, and you're too scared to believe anything, but you really want to believe something and it's really overwhelming and confusing and scary, take a break. Put it off till a time when you're ready. Put it off forever. You have that option. And if you feel like you need to make a decision right now about what to believe, then choose a belief and go with it. You have that option. And if you later realize you were wrong about something, change your mind. You have that option too. You have many options, which can be hard to see in the aftermath of cultic abuse, because arguably the most prominent damage done by cults to an individual is to their sense of autonomy. If you've spent a lot of time having your decisions influenced and controlled by someone else or by a group, it can be very hard to reclaim that choice-making power. So here's a cult recovery cheat code. Choose things. Literally any things. Choose things. Choose what to eat. Choose what to wear. Choose what music to listen to. Choose something to believe and choose something else to believe 5 minutes later. Literally any conscious choice you make in your recovery journey is a recovery choice when we're talking about recovering from cultism specifically. So you may choose to become an atheist, an anti-theist, anti-spiritual, anti-religion, and you might find that choice very healing. You might choose to return to spirituality and find that very healing. Spirituality is not innately harmful, just as atheism is not innately healing. And if you're fresh out of that spiritual abuse and it's hard to see how spirituality could have any good in it, that's understandable. But it would be black and white to frame something as vast and complex and intricate as spirituality as being entirely good or entirely bad. Personally, I think the real marker of healing from cultism is when you stop seeing your mind as a dangerous place where you're going to get hurt if you think the wrong thing, if you believe the wrong thing, and start seeing your mind as a playground that you can have fun with, that you can toy with, that you have a lot of freedom and mobility inside of. Ultimately, again, It's not what's believed, but how it's believed. Once you find yourself making that transition from being afraid of your own mind's capacity to having lots and lots of fun with it, I think that's really the marker that you're beginning to recover. And you might go back and forth. You might feel paralyzed sometimes, and all of that is okay and understandable. I can't tell you how to recover. I can't tell you what to believe. I am not your teacher. All I will say is that as time goes on, you may arrive at the same mentality that many other recovering cultists have arrived at before you, which is that it's okay to not have everything figured out. Pro tip, nobody does. With that, best of luck on your recovery journey, and please continue discussing this topic in the comments. Let it be known that this will always be one space where you can engage with ideas as freely, as openly as you'd like. There is nothing too taboo or off limits for unminding. Thanks for watching, lovelings.